Okay, so I'm going to do a comparison between a Galaxy S 4G, a Galaxy S2, a Galaxy S3, and a Galaxy S4. These are all the T-Mobile phones. None of them have been rooted. They're all running a OEM or T-Mobile pushed out ROM. So let's go ahead and go through some of the settings. When I do these tests, people ask if I have power settings on, what version of the OS I'm running, and everything else. So let's, on the Galaxy S, go to settings, and this is running 2.3.6, and power setting, or power savings, is disabled. Alright, and on the Galaxy S2, we have version 4.0.3. Okay. Power settings is disabled, or power savings is disabled. Galaxy S3. We are running 4.1.2, which is actually just pushed out today over the air from T-Mobile. And then on the Galaxy S4, it is running the original ROM that it shipped with, which is 4.2.2. Okay, so I'm going to run two different benchmarks, and first thing I want to do is restart the phones so that we're starting with a fresh clean slate. This phone, you have to power it off and then turn it back on. Okay, Galaxy S2, we have a restart. Galaxy S3. Okay. Okay. Two's done. Three's done. Alright. Alright, so let's go ahead and run the Antutu benchmark across the board on all of them. Ignore those scores. I got interrupted and had to restart. So let's test again. Start test. So while we're waiting, the Galaxy S1 was just factory reset along with the 2. The Galaxy S3 was factory reset like a week ago, but there's some apps that have been installed on it because the phone is being used. The Galaxy S4 is about 2 weeks old, and I've installed very few apps on it, so I would say this is a pretty fair comparison. All the phones have power saving turned off, and I do have the brightness turned up on all of them, and I have a 10-minute background turned on because I didn't want to sit here and try and keep them awake as I'm doing the test. We'll see how the score turns out. I'm going to do the Antutu right now. This is the 3.3 on all 3 phones. After this, I'll do a quadrant, and I'll probably split it up into a different video because some people don't like Antutu and some people don't like quadrant. So you can definitely see the resolution difference. The 4 has teeny tiny little androids while the 2 has a pretty large one. The newer the phone, the higher the resolution, obviously. And of course the 1 is bring up the rear, and it was started first. Pretty much to be expected. Getting about 58 to 59, 60 on all three of those phones. Galaxy S1 is 38, 39, much lower. But the 2, 3, and 4 are getting very similar frame rates. Which of course is because the higher resolution is going to be more taxing on the hardware. Well, right there actually it looks like the frames per second is 35 on the 4. 11, 13 on the 3, and 9 or 10 on the 2, and 3.6 on the Galaxy S1. Almost there, 87% on all the phones. Alright, well, the Galaxy S1 finished first. I'm sure it doesn't have some of the hardware that the other phones do, so that's why it finished so quickly. Alright, so let's go over these results. Okay, so the S 4G total score is 2728. CPU is 720. GPU is 1136. RAM 492. IOS is 310. And its 1000 megahertz processor, and resolution is 480 by 800. So that's results on that. Whoops. Alright, the 2 scored at 8428, which is pretty good in comparison. The CPU is 2977, GPU 3355, RAM is 1559, and IOS is 537. This is a dual core 1.5 gigahertz. It's actually the same resolution as the 1, the 480 by 800. Okay. The Galaxy S3 scored a 10699. The CPU is 3776. GPU is 4353. RAM is 1683. And iOS is 887. This is a dual core 1.5 also, but the resolution is 720 by 1280. Okay. For the 4, Galaxy S4 scored a 23993. That is a big jump from the 10699 on the Galaxy S3. The CPU scored a 10956, so 10,956. GPU is 8,209. RAM is 3,922, and the iOS is 906. And it is a quad core 1890 megahertz processor, and the resolution is 1080 by 1920. So obviously there's a big difference between the 3 and the 4, and I'll just hold them up because that's what a lot of people are going to be interested in. There's a difference between 3 and 4 because that's the current phones. So as you can see, that's it's over double on the total score. So that's a big jump. Okay. So next I'll go ahead and do the quadrant, and think I'll stop the tape or stop the camera and start over.